Um, Welcome to today's deep dive. We're looking at a truly fascinating roadmap today.
We really are. It's a great one.
Yeah, and if you are someone who, follows the mechanics of the creator economy, or even if you just appreciate the architecture of a really radical pivot, this is going to be right up your alley.
Absolutely.
Today, we are unpacking a strategic announcement transcript from the Out of Bound podcast. And the mission for this deep dive is to basically dissect the anatomy of a major creative evolution. We are going to look under the hood of what actually happens when a successful project looks at the very mold that built its audience.
And decides to just break it.
Exactly. Decided to intentionally break it apart to build something entirely different.
It is a remarkable blueprint to analyze because on the surface, an update like this can just look like standard administrative housekeeping.
Right, like a scheduling update.
Yeah, just a team telling their audience about some upcoming changes to their release schedule or maybe a minor format tweak. But when you actually dig into the mechanics of what they're proposing here, this announcement reveals a masterclass in platform building.
And creative scaling too, right?
Oh, without a doubt. It's a very raw look at audience relationships and really the hidden risks of trying to outgrow your original container.
And we see that tension all the time. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by it. You subscribe to a channel or a show, and over the years, the creator just gets locked into this feedback loop.
The algorithm trap.
Yes. The algorithm rewards a highly specific type of repetition, so they just keep serving the exact same dish because they're absolutely terrified of losing their spot in the feed.
Which is completely understandable from a survival standpoint.
Right, but this source text is different. This announcement is essentially a roadmap for radical evolution, a manifesto for refusing to be boxed in. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
They begin by explicitly acknowledging their roots. They note that their initial operations were primarily within the social media influencing space. There's an interesting way to phrase it.
It is, because that space is a highly specific, highly optimized ecosystem. It has very rigid rules, distinct metrics for success, and very real limitations.
Totally.
But what stands out in their strategy is how they reframe that origin. They don't dismiss the influencer label as a mistake or something to be ashamed of.
No, they treat it like an incubator.
Exactly. It was the testing ground. That's where they learned how to hold attention, where they experimented with pacing, and crucially, where they built the foundational skills of community engagement.
They basically use that highly volatile space exactly for what it's best at.
Rapid prototyping and immediate audience feedback.
Right. It functioned as a very public creative sandbox for them. But then we hit the catalyst for this entire pivot. They pinpoint this crucial aha moment, a realization where the overarching vision simply became much bigger than staying inside that original influencing space.
And that realization is the turning point.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Why leave? If you have figured out how to thrive in that social media influencing space, you have a working formula. The algorithms are paying you in reach, they're paying you in engagement. Walking away from a functioning machine seems incredibly risky.
Oh, it is an enormous risk. But it really comes down to a fundamental question of control. Are you serving your creative vision, or are you just serving the platform's retention metrics?
That's the million-dollar question.
And the pattern we are looking at in the text highlights the ceiling of existing entirely within a third-party environment. You have to remember, social media platforms are designed top to bottom to keep users scrolling on their app.
Right, not yours.
Exactly. They are not designed to foster boundless, long-term creative ecosystems for individual creators. By publicly declaring that their vision has outgrown the influencer space, they are signaling a massive structural shift.
Meaning they're done playing the game.
Precisely. They are transitioning from playing the algorithm's game-chasing engagement bait to building a self-sustaining enterprise. They are reclaiming the primary relationship with their audience.
Taking back the reins. And that exact psychological shift is the driving force behind the new name, Out of Bound.
Which is a very deliberate choice.
Very deliberate. They offer a specific definition for the rebrand in the transcript. They state it represents stepping outside the limits of expectation, outside the lines, outside the boundaries that normally define what a project should look like. And they specifically use the phrase, outside the league.
Outside the league, that's a powerful distinction.
It is. It implies they are actively trying to invent a new game rather than just competing in the existing one. They make this bold declaration that this podcast was never meant to stay in one lane.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a direct rejection of the dominant strategy in modern audience building.
The standard playbook.
Right. We all know the advice. Find your niche, dominate that specific lane, and never ever deviate so the algorithm always knows exactly who to serve your content to.
And they are just actively rejecting that one-lane rule.
Completely. By explicitly branding themselves around the concept of boundary breaking, they are telling the audience that the only constant is going to be change. The creative freedom this rebrand unlocks is massive.
It reminds me of an indie band making the decision to leave a major record label so they can just release whatever they want directly to their fans. It requires an immense amount of community trust.
But the creative payoff is unparalleled.
Exactly. And honestly, for you as a listener, that is incredibly refreshing. You have diverse interests.
Sure.
It is so rare to find a project that respects your intelligence enough to promise actual exploration, rather than just feeding you the exact same flavor every single week.
Your band analogy is spot on because it touches on the survival aspect of this move. By openly making Out of Bound the literal name and guiding philosophy right now, they are baking extreme flexibility into their foundation.
They're bulletproofing their future content.
Yes. Because when creators are trapped by the expectations of their past success, their output inevitably stagnates. The audience revolts if they try something new.
We've seen that happen so many times.
But here, by telling the audience up front they won't stay in one category, they are systematically removing the pressure to conform. They are giving themselves structural permission to evolve freely, as they state in the text. And that is notoriously one of the hardest things for a public-facing brand to pull off without alienating its core base.
They are setting the expectation that the expectation will be broken, which is brilliant. But a philosophy is just a philosophy until you lay down the bricks, right?
Yes.
And they don't leave this as some vague, lofty promise. They lay out a highly specific master plan.
The timeline is key here.
Right. They have given themselves a deliberate 6 to 18-month window to pull this major step forward off.
Which tells us a lot about the operational reality of this pivot. 6 to 18 months is a substantial, methodical runway. It communicates that this isn't some rash overnight rebrand designed to spike short-term attention.
It's not a publicity stunt.
Exactly. It was an architectural build. They are managing the community's expectations, signaling that this evolution will be phased in step by step. This allows the audience to acclimate to the new direction gradually,
Avoiding that sudden, jarring shift that usually fractures a listener base. And the absolute anchor of this entire rollout, the centerpiece of this 6 to 18-month plan, is the official launch of the Out of Bound podcast website.
a hub.
Yes, the main hub. They are positioning this website as the central destination for everything connected to the show and all its future branches. But let's be real for a second. Driving traffic away from YouTube or Spotify to a standalone website is notoriously difficult. Aren't they risking massive discoverability drops by taking the focus off the major audio platforms?
They absolutely are risking a drop in top-of-funnel discoverability, but they are trading that for immunity against algorithmic capture. This is perhaps the most critical strategic maneuver in their entire playbook.
How so?
Well, they specifically focus in the text on wanting to build a full environment rather than just posting episodes on platforms. When you rely solely on passive audio distribution, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or a social feed, you are essentially a sharecropper.
Renting space on someone else's digital land.
Exactly. If the platform changes its user interface, alters its discovery algorithm, or adjusts its monetization rules, your entire business model can collapse overnight.
You're totally at their mercy. A single update can wipe out years of audience building.
Precisely. So, by absorbing the short-term friction of directing people to their own website hub, they are securing a first-party relationship with their audience. It is a structural shift from passive distribution to building a comprehensive creative project with different branches.
Everything organized in one place.
Right. It allows listeners to track the show's evolution directly, entirely unfiltered by a middleman's algorithm dictating the experience.
It transforms the project from just a piece of media you casually consume in the background into an actual environment you visit and explore.
A true destination.
And from a purely technical standpoint, owning that destination fundamentally changes what they're actually able to publish. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The creative constraints are gone.
Exactly. They are promising a total content revolution. The text lays out that it is no longer just standard audio episodes. They are looking to launch conversations, storytelling, new series concepts, and entirely new creative experiments that just don't fit into the traditional format box.
Because an RSS feed is great for piping standard audio to an app, but it is a very rigid pipe.
You can't put a square peg in a round hole.
Right. You cannot send a highly serialized interactive visual essay or some unstructured multimedia project through a standard audio feed. The traditional medium is no longer sufficient to contain the scope of their ideas. By bringing the distribution under their own roof, they break that technical bottleneck. They now have the native infrastructure to support literally any format they can dream up.
And they are promising to deliver formats that will be completely unexpected, which is such a great phrase. That is the ultimate element of surprise and a massive benefit for an intellectually curious listener who loves those aha moments.
It rewards the audience for paying attention.
We are so conditioned by this parasocial contract where a creator promises to be predictable so we feel safe and comfortable. But this team is actively disrupting that comfort zone. However, we have to talk about the logistics of what they're actually promising here, because the pacing of growth they've outlined is staggering.
It's incredibly ambitious.
They state an explicit goal in the text: to introduce something different every single month and to improve the show every single week. That sounds like a fast track to sheer operational burnout.
It is a massive logistical hurdle. To publicly commit to introducing a new format or concept monthly requires an internal production cycle that functions more like a startup incubator than a traditional media studio.
It demands relentless iteration.
Constant prototyping, rapid testing, and a willingness to publicly fail. A standard team masters a format and then just scales the efficiency of producing that one thing. This team is committing to breaking their own production pipeline every 30 days.
Exactly. It means they can never run on autopilot. Every release has to be scrutinized. Every single week has to be a step forward.
It represents a philosophy of constant growth. They are stating that the point of the show is to continually expand beyond its original boundaries. This marks a profound philosophical transition from playing a finite game to playing an infinite game.
I love that framing. Explain the difference there.
In a finite game, your goal is to win. To hit a subscriber milestone, to beat the algorithm, to secure a sponsorship, the rules are set. But in an infinite game, the only objective is to keep playing. The goal isn't to arrive at a final perfected format. The goal is the act of expansion itself. The project becomes a living, breathing entity.
Shifting to the infinite game, that is a brilliant way to synthesize this. Let's do a quick recap of what we've pulled apart here today. We have traced this creator's journey, a roadmap from a confined, highly optimized influencer space, which served as a vital incubator, to the ambitious rollout of a boundless creative hub.
A complete architectural rebuild.
Right. We've seen how rejecting the standard one-lane rule and rebranding as out of bound serves as a manifesto for creative freedom. It structurally protects them from stagnation. And crucially, we explored how their deliberate 6 to 18-month timeline to launch a centralized website hub trades passive audio distribution for true ownership.
Allowing them to break that RSS bottleneck.
Exactly, and experiment with completely unexpected, limitless formats.
And pinning all of these tactical decisions together are the core values driving the endeavor. When you look at the end of the text, their strategy really distills down to a beautifully simple yet ruthlessly demanding mandate. Keep improving, keep creating, keep going out of bound.
It's a testament to prioritizing long-term vision over short-term optimization. It really is a phenomenal blueprint for scaling a project on your own terms. Thank you so much for joining us and unpacking this with me today. It's always a privilege to explore these mechanics with you.
The pleasure is mine.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We've talked extensively about how this project is shedding its labels, breaking the constraints of standard distribution, and promising to relentlessly invent new formats. So if a creative project makes a commitment to constantly step outside the boundaries of what normally defines it, at what point does it stop being a podcast entirely and evolve into a completely new medium we don't even have a name for yet? Something to think about.